flourishing base for IT-ITeS, retail and manufacturing with the presence of over 50 big conglomerates coupled with metro connectivity with Delhi, state-of-art services at competitive rates and an expanding residential base has given major impetus to Noida and Greater Noida as the next commercial destination of India. Adding feathers, the upcoming Jewar International Airport and the proposed Noida Film City has given positive momentum, which would along the expressway not only add a new dimension to the economic base of the region, but also add to the lucrativeness of the Agra-Mathura-Vrindavan tourism circuit. Developers and analysts are of the view that Noida will be second to none in view of its attractive facilities and ease of doing business. In conversation with Manish Agarwal, MD North and East JLL India, upon Noida, Greater Noida as the fastest and favorite emerging commercial destination of India.
Noida has come a long way. It was actually established as a residential cum industrial hub. So I think 1976 was when it was established. But since then, most of the activities have taken place in the last 30-35 years. And that's mostly towards industrialization of the entire area. Now, it obviously started long back with companies like LG and Yamaha and Honda coming to those Greater Noida locations. Today, if you see a lot of electronic system design and manufacturing companies, vehicle manufacturing companies, IT-ITeS, software development companies, and obviously back offices. So it's a good mix, but of course, it's been led by industrial manufacturing. Noida, in terms of infrastructure, is probably second to none in the country today. And when I say infrastructure, I mean the roads, the planning of the residential and commercial hubs all along the roads, giving the right amount of space for green belts, and then having metro now reaching out to the far-flung areas of Greater Noida as well as to the last sectors of Noida. Now that has provided a great impetus to the development, overall development, both for manufacturing and other services-related industries. So Noida itself is a city today. So if anybody living in Noida need not come to Delhi for anything, be it to go to a mall, having a good class hospitals, and followed by residential, all sorts of residential societies, and of course the biggest impetus is the service industry, which basically attracts and which brings in a lot of jobs. So industrial, service industry, as well as back offices, they provide a huge impetus to jobs in Noida. So it's become like a city in itself, and it's growing quite rapidly. It's a very good city to do business in. It's a very progressive city. You've got very progressive governments in both Noida and Greater Noida. Now, in last 10 to 15 years, you would see that they actually planned allotment of land parcels basis incentives. Initially, for example, for industrial houses, they used to give incentives, that is by reducing land prices or giving them electricity at a lower cost. There was some taxation benefits as well. And see, a very good thing about Noida is it's a single window clearance for any project you want to set up. They will basically give you all the relevant approvals. They will provide the right land parcel. They will provide you with the infrastructure, so you don't have to really go. So ease of doing business. Now, all along the expressway and other parts of Noida, there's adequate housing, and there's adequate amount of job opportunities created by initially by IT-ITeS companies and followed by manufacturing. So the manufacturing facilities, and typically electronic manufacturing facilities and OEMs, they need a particular specific talent which is now available in abundance in NCR. Now you would see in last 7 to 8 years, there's a huge amount of migration of people who basically are living in Noida itself when they go to work there. So that has actually provided a good growth for that entire area, basis which the direct and indirect employment has been generated to a large levels, and also has led to a direct and indirect taxation benefit to the state as well as the center. Today, if you look at Noida hosts more than 100 mobile OEMs, which is component manufacturing facilities. And additionally, we've got companies in the vehicle manufacturing space, and government has equally supported that by providing adequate infrastructure, both in terms of providing adequate electricity, proper roads for logistics support. They've even set up logistics hubs now, which will basically connect all these industries to the airport. Besides that, a lot of companies actually are now setting up their shops along the Yamuna Expressway, where the government is setting up the new industrial hubs as well as the logistics hubs. Now, this especially will benefit because of the airport now coming around. And to my mind, that's probably the biggest airport in the country when it comes up eventually. I mean, it's planned for 6 to 8 runways, which is probably the largest in the country now. So all these companies have now set up their shop in the last 10 to 15 years. This directly benefits direct and indirect employment. Now, any manufacturing facility when it comes up has employment generated for direct employees. And then there are a huge amount of OEMs which set up shop around them, and logistics support which the companies provide. So it provides a lot of indirect employment, which actually helps in the overall economic development in terms of increasing the spending power of people, and that actually leads to the growth of the economy of that particular city. And that's what has happened in Noida and Greater Noida right now. It's predominantly been driven by small and medium scale enterprises which basically are into electronic system design as well as manufacturing. A lot of R&D centers are now coming across Noida. Companies are shifting their R&D centers there. So predominantly, to my mind, next 3 to 5 years, these 3 or 4 sectors will be driving the growth of this entire area. Of course, you know that Noida is already a hub of very large homegrown Indian enterprises like an HCL. Infosys is setting up their office there. Wipro will be looking at setting up office there. Now you already have large offices of TCS, which is basically all of these companies being in IT-ITeS and software development. Noida also is a hub for a very large number of back offices. But I think predominantly it is going to be driven by, at least next 2 to 3 years or 4 years, by most of the ESDM, like I mentioned, electronics and electronic component manufacturing companies.